I'm Liz Faublas, and this is Currents. Their ordinations are right around the corner. We talk with the two men who will be Brooklyn's newest auxiliary bishops. Plus, what does it take to be a bishop?
They need to be men of faith that can really be successors of the apostles.
And saying goodbye at a parish in Queens.
I will certainly miss the people here. They have been like a family to me.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us. This coming Wednesday, July 11th, a historic day for the Diocese of Brooklyn, as Bishop DiMarcio will ordain two new auxiliary bishops. The announcement came back on May 2nd that Pope Benedict had selected Monsignors Paul Sanchez and Raymond Geppetto as auxiliary bishops. Both men have served in various positions throughout the Diocese of Brooklyn. Bishop-elect Sanchez was recently named pastor of Our Lady, Queen of Martyrs in Forest Hills, Queens. Prior to that, he had been the territorial vicar for Queens. Bishop-elect Geppetto is currently the pastor of St. Kevin's Parish in Flushing, a new assignment after serving as pastor of Our Lady of the Snows in Floral Park. Now, on the day their appointments as auxiliary bishops were announced, the two men sat down with our news director, Ed Wilkinson.
Well, Bishop-elect Geppetto, Bishop-elect Sanchez, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
A wonderful day. It's a day the whole diocese rejoices in, and we celebrate. What was your immediate reaction, Bishop Ray, when you heard that you were going to be a bishop, and how did you hear?
I received a telephone call last week from the Apostolic Nuncio informing me that I had been appointed by the Pope. I didn't know what to think at first. I was so surprised, just so totally overwhelmed, so grateful to the Pope, and very humbled by it. And
what did you think when you heard the nuncio was on the phone to talk to you? What did you think it was about?
Well, I knew he wasn't calling me just to say hello, but I had to hear it from him. I had to know what he wanted, and then when he told me, I was very grateful to God and grateful to him.
Sure. Were you surprised?
I was surprised. I had no idea it was coming. It was a great gift from God and from the church.
And Bishop Paul, how about yourself? When did you how did you find out through the nuncio also?
I did. It was a phone call on my cell phone on Wednesday morning, the Feast of St. Mark, at about 9:30 in the morning, and in a very gentle voice, accented, he said, "Is this Monsignor Sanchez?" I said, "Yes." He said, "This is the Apostolic Nuncio." And the first thing that went through my mind is this the Apostolic Nuncio, or is this a priest friend of mine pretending that he's the Apostolic?
Yes, right.
He said, "I want you to know the Holy Father has appointed you auxiliary bishop of Brooklyn." And he said, "I'm sure that you will be happy to accept that ministry." Wow. And then he went on to say about keeping it secret, and told me what my titular see was. And he said he would be in contact with Bishop DiMarcio.
Okay, where is your titular see?
It's in Algeria.
Okay.
I believe it's pronounced Cheliana.
Why don't you explain what a titular see is to our viewers who may not be familiar with this?
Well, my understanding is that each bishop is given custody of a see someplace in the world, and certainly it's to be in union with them through prayer and through whatever type of support that each bishop can give.
And Bishop Ray, where is your titular see?
In Turkey. It's called CZO in Turkey.
Had you ever heard of it?
Never heard of it before.
So when did you get to then link up with Bishop DiMarcio and discuss this with him?
Well, on Wednesday, he cornered the two of us and told us that he had already been informed, and that we should be prepared to meet with him someday later in the week to go over details, and he would explain more to us at that time. So he met with us, and he gave us a lot of information that was useful.
Did he give you any good advice? Bishop Paul, he must have given you some advice.
Well, I think the most touching thing is that actually both of us met Bishop DiMarcio right before the funeral of Monsignor Tom Graham on that same day, Wednesday. And about maybe later that day, Joanne, Bishop's secretary, said, invited us to the bishop's residence to concelebrate Mass with the bishop on Friday morning at 8 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a special moment, being in his private chapel. And I have to tell you that we parked in the backyard. We were both early. We didn't want to ring his bell. He came out to get us. And we were probably both praying the office in our separate cars. And we stepped out of the car, and the first thing we saw was an outdoor statue of Our Lady of Mount Carmel that a friend of the bishop's had placed in the backyard of the residence.
Mm-hmm.
And the bishop said, Bishop Geppetto baptized in Our Lady of Mount Carmel, and I of course was pastor there for 7 years. So.
And were you aware that that each other had been named at that point? You
Yes.
already knew that
Yeah.
there were two of you, and
Yes.
you were each other. Yeah. Have you spoken to any of the other auxiliary bishops?
Yes, yesterday I received a call from Bishop Cisneros and Bishop Caggiano.
Mm-hmm.
Both of them called me yesterday and to congratulate me and to offer their support and their help.
Uh-huh. And Bishop Paul?
I received calls from both of them as well yesterday, and it was very touching, very supportive, and I guess among other things, they said, your life will change.
I'm sure it will. We're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to be right back and talk a little bit about how that world has changed for you, okay?
Thank you.
All right, don't go anywhere. More of our interview with the bishops-elect is next. Welcome back to Currents. I'm Liz Faubles. The big day is almost here for the Diocese of Brooklyn and the two men who will be ordained auxiliary bishops to serve Catholics across Brooklyn and Queens. On Wednesday, July 11th, Bishop DiMarcio will ordain bishops-elect Raymond Geppetto and Paul Sanchez as auxiliaries. The ordination mass will take place at Our Lady of Angels Church in Bay Ridge, and you can see it here on net. Now, back on May 2nd, when the announcement about the two new auxiliaries were made, our news director Ed Wilkinson sat down with both men. Here now is part 2 of that interview.
Okay, well, welcome back. We're talking about how your life has changed in an instant like that. I just want to talk about the secret, first of all, for a while, because you sworn to secrecy when you first find out. When are you able to tell your family about it, Bishop Ray?
Bishop DiMarzio said that I could tell my family ahead of time, and I did do that, and they were so overjoyed and so happy for me. It was a very wonderful moment for me to tell them and share that news with them.
Yeah. How about the people in the parish? Are they aware of it yet?
Well, this morning I told the principal of the school, and she gathered all the children in the schoolyard and announced it over the loudspeaker to them this morning. So word will travel very quickly through the parish.
Oh, I'm sure by the time you get home today. And Bishop Paul, how about yourself? You spoke with your family, people in your family?
I did. My sister lives on Long Island with my brother-in-law, Marie and Larry. So because the bishop was gracious enough to invite them to the press conference later, I wanted to give them due notice to give them their schedule, set their schedule up. So they're going to be here this morning. And I told you when Archbishop Vigano said, I'm sure that you will be happy to be a minister to minister as an auxiliary bishop. When my sister picked up the phone, I told her that I was named the bishop, and she said, are you happy? So I found it curious that the Archbishop and my sister chose the same adjective.
And what did you say to her?
I said I'm happy, but I'm feeling in shock.
Sure,
So.
sure, yeah. So what do you, as auxiliary bishops, I mean, you'll still be a pastor. You were just named to St. Kevin's Parish in Flushing, right?
Yes.
But what will be your role as an auxiliary bishop?
Well, Bishop DiMarzio asked me to continue to be a pastor and also to continue to be the vicar for clergy and consecrated life. And so I'll obviously continue those two roles and do whatever he needs done in the diocese, helping him with confirmations and helping him with ceremonies or whatever he asked me to do. I'll try to help him out as much as I can.
And Bishop Paul, you're right now you're working in the Chancery Building as an Episcopal vicar. And how do you see the transition from being a vicar to an auxiliary bishop?
No, I think it will be fairly easy. Actually, you know, being a vicar for the past 4 years has been a tremendous asset. Of course, Bishop Ray has served as a vicar.
Yeah.
And asset in the sense that it really opens your eyes to the needs of the diocese, and it's been a great blessing. And so I think it was a good foundation for me to serve as auxiliary bishop.
Sure.
What awaits me, I'm open to whatever happens. The bishop will, I'm sure, you know, have plenty of work for us to do.
This is a time of great change in the diocese. Everything is changing, you know, even the population, demographics, parishes. What do you see as the primary needs right now of the diocese, Bishop Ray?
I think just continuing the work of the new evangelization obviously is the greatest need, and preparing for the Year of Faith. This is an important part of the life of the diocese, is to celebrate with the whole church the Year of Faith.
Sure, that's
starting in
up.
October.
Right.
And meet the current needs, day-to-day needs of the diocese.
And last word, Bishop Paul, what do you think is the primary interest of the diocese right now?
Well, certainly what Bishop Ray said, I affirm. I think I'd like to also, you know, it's funny, when we celebrated Mass with the bishop, I prayed for the priests of the diocese, and Bishop Ray prayed for the seminarians. I would like to think that we could certainly support the priests. They're on the front line, and the seminarians who are, you know, our future. So I look forward to working with both groups.
Well, thanks so much for taking some time out today and being with us. Congratulations, best of luck, and we look forward to covering the ordination as bishops in July. Thanks for being with us today.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Thanks
a lot.
Thanks.
And we have much more currents ahead, so don't go anywhere. Coming up, how are new bishops selected? We'll find out.
There's a lot of consultation, and I think that's what people want.
Welcome back. Well, as we've been telling you, Bishop DiMarcio will ordain Bishops-elect Paul Sanchez and Raymond Geppetto as auxiliaries for the Diocese of Brooklyn on Wednesday, July 11th. But how was it that they were chosen to serve in such an important role? And what does it take to be a bishop? For more on that, our news director, Ed Wilkinson, recently spoke with Bishop DiMarcio for this week's Into the Deep.
Bishop DiMarcio, thanks for being with us today.
Good to be here again.
So here we are. We're almost to the big day of the Episcopal ordinations. Always a big day in the life of a diocese. These two men, Bishop Paul Sanchez and Bishop Ray Geppetto, there seems to be a great gathering of goodwill. These are very well-liked men. Why were these men chosen to be bishops?
Well, I think their character, their contribution to the diocese, the popularity helps, but that's not the critical piece. They need to be men of faith that can really be successors of the apostles. They have to be, in a certain sense, extraordinary, not just ordinary, willing to give their all in the service of God's people. And clearly these two men seem to fit the bill. Clearly the process is not so secret. I mean, several years ago when the other bishops retired, I asked the priests of the diocese and laity, sisters also, if they had any suggestions of who might be a good candidate to be a bishop, and we received those recommendations. And simply, they were actually two of the people that came out as very much desired for leadership. And then the process would be that I need to have 3 names for each position that I request. I have to ask first permission to request the auxiliary bishops, which our diocese normally gets. We have usually 4, and we have a big diocese, and there's a need for bishops to help. And then I have to prepare they call it turn, 3 names for each position that we have to then goes to the nuncio in Washington, and then they do a polling. They ask 50, 60 people for each candidate what their opinion is. So it's quite a process. You know, if you have 3 names, and that would be 6 names, and then we
Sure.
have to poll on 6 people, and to find out what the feeling of the faithful is, lay people also. And it's all secret. Everybody's pledged to pontifical secrecy, so you'll never know who was asked, but the responses go back, and then the nuncio prepares the turnus to go to Rome, and it goes to the congregation of bishops. Congregations of bishops meet periodically, they evaluate, and then out of the 3 that you recommend, they pick 1, and that goes to the Holy Father for his approval. So it's a process where there is consultation. It isn't something that just comes out of the sky or done by the will of a bishop, certainly not.
You just don't pick 2 names
No,
and say.
no, it's not that simple. Or, and it's good it's not, because it isn't. There's a lot of consultation, and I think that's
Sure.
what people want today in the church, the selection of bishops, and it's there.
Sure.
Not as open as many other people would like, but it's actually there.
You wrote in your tablet column that you spent the week before the ordinations with these
Right.
bishops on a retreat, and you preached to them.
Right.
And your theme is really centered around the bishops as successors to the apostles.
Right.
Yeah.
I did this with the other ordination of the 3 bishops, and I thought it would be good I'd do it again. I really enjoyed it. Retreat for myself. I did the base of the retreat on the lives of the apostles. We know something about each one of them. Some of them a little bit more than others, obviously. Peter and Paul, we know a lot, but the others are just names at times, but there's a lot of tradition around them. And I use that as the framework to say the things I think are important for people coming to the episcopate to understand. And so it's a retreat for me and for them, and we're in a spiritual way for the whole week and preparing ourselves for ordination, which I think is a good thing to do.
Sure. Bishop, of course, the ceremony itself is steeped in tradition, hundreds of years old. Are there certain parts that are highlights for you?
Well, clearly the imposition of hands by myself and the other ordaining bishops, the prostration, which comes first, litany of the saints, the anointing of the head with oil, which is really goes back to the Old Testament, anointing of kings and prophets. So the oil comes right down on their head. I tell them to take the glasses off because they could be impaired by the rest of the ceremony. And then the bestowal of the insignia, the ring, and then the crozier and mitre, and then the final, they're walked around the church to show they take responsibility for the jurisdiction of the church.
Sure. And of course, there's a lot of pageantry. There'll be a lot of visiting bishops, and a lot of priests will be there. And and Our Lady of Angels is a beautiful church to have it in, right?
It's air conditioned too.
That's right. I'm sure that entered into the choice. Yeah. Well, we'll be watching. We'll have it live here on net, and everybody will be watching, hopefully. And hopefully, it's going to be a beautiful day.
Great.
So thanks for being
All
with
right,
us
very
today.
Good. You're welcome.
Stay tuned. More currents after the break. For Bishop-elect Geppetto, a farewell at a Queen's parish.
I just have 2 questions. How do you smile for so long? And doesn't it hurt?
Finally tonight, the 2 men who will soon be ordained auxiliary bishops for the Diocese of Brooklyn have also been given other new assignments. Bishop-elect Paul Sanchez, who had been the territorial vicar for Queens, is now the pastor of Our Lady Queen of Martyrs in Forest Hills. Bishop-elect Raymond Geppetto has served as pastor at Our Lady of the Snows in Floral Park, but now he has a new parish to call home. Last month, the Indian Latin Apostolate at Our Lady of the Snows hosted a farewell celebration.
We are at Our Lady of Snows Parish in Floral Park, Queens. We are having a second Saturday Malayalam Mass, which is our traditional Indian Mass. Tonight's celebration is very special because Bishop-elect Ray was elevated to Auxiliary Bishop of Brooklyn by the Pope. Knowing that he came from our parish makes it even more fun, more exciting, something to be very proud.
I've been here for 13 years, and I'm moving on to a new parish at the end of this month. I'm being transferred to St. Kevin Parish in Flushing, and I'm also the vicar for clergy and consecrated life in the diocese, and now I'll have additional duties as an auxiliary bishop, helping Bishop DiMarzio in any way that I can to serve the people of the Diocese of Brooklyn.
built a beautiful church for us at a time when many churches around the world are closing down and seeing decreasing in membership.
Bishop-elect Ray has been the backbone of this Indian Latin Catholic apostolate, and he has always been there whenever we needed something. He just has asked us, and always he said, "How can I help you?"
I just have two questions. How do you smile for so long? And doesn't it hurt?
I think the most thing I love about him is his generosity and his kindness to others, and he almost knows everybody's name in the whole parish.
He's special because I've known him my whole life, and he's always nice to everyone and always polite.
I am so overwhelmed by this expression of love, but I'm filled with a sense of peace in the midst of all of the changes going on in my life, in the midst of all of the packing and moving and the preparing for the ordination, because I feel that this is what God is asking. I've been very, very impressed with their prayerfulness and their devotion to the Eucharist, their fidelity to this Mass. Well, like all the apostolates, they maintain their culture, their traditions, the way they would celebrate things if they were at home in India. So they are important Masses for them each month because they teach their children the culture, the traditions, and the importance of their ritual. I will certainly miss the people here. They have been like a family to me. I'll still be around the diocese, so I hope I can come back once in a while to visit them and share their Masses and to enjoy their company once again.
To be honest with you, the first time I heard that he's actually leaving, I actually cried. You know, I got very emotional because he's so attached to us. You don't meet many people who, who get to know you and who know you by name, know you by face, know your family, and to have someone that close and to let go of them, it's very difficult.
Well, we certainly wish Bishops-elect Raymond Geppetto and Paul Sanchez nothing but the best. And be sure to tune in to NET on Wednesday, July 11th, beginning at 1 p.m. as we bring you their Bishop's Ordination Mass. For all of us here at Currents, I'm Liz Faublas. We leave you tonight with sights and sounds from the Indian Latin farewell for Bishop-elect Geppetto at Our Lady of the Snows. Thank you for watching and have a good night.